the opportunity that again, so many people have, especially consultants, is if you're earlier stage, and I mean, you're up to, several $1 million per year. So if you're a boutique, like I'm not talking about if you have hundreds or thousands of employees, that's a different game. You're at a different level. You can start building out different groups and units and sets of capabilities. But if you're smaller, having a specialization is really important until you get a good grasp on the market, and then you can look for opportunities to expand from there.
Welcome to 7 to 8, our special series on 7 and 8 figure speakers. In this interview series, some of the hottest speakers in the industry who've made over 7 figures in a year or less will uncover their twists and turns in their adventures, helping you to avoid the potholes and stick to the fast track. Welcome now to center stage, our next guest speaker. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Michael. Michael, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Michelle, great to be with you.
Awesome. So give us kind of a highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
Yeah. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Consulting Success. So that's consultingsuccess.com. And it's where we work with and help entrepreneurial consultants to build more profitable, scalable, and strategic consulting businesses. We started this about 13 years ago after building several of our own consulting businesses, both in North America and in Asia, working with clients all around the world, some very large names, some smaller names as well. But, we kind of went through the ups and downs of what's involved in building a consulting business and figuring out how to build a business around your expertise and your knowledge. And so when I say we, I'm referring to my cousin, Sam, who's co-founder in this company, and we've built and sold other companies together over the years. But we were at a family barbecue one summer and we said, it's been a little while since we've built or worked on a business together. What if we do something in consulting space as a way just to share our experiences of what it's like to run a consulting business, stories from the trenches, the good, the bad, the ugly. And so we started sharing that experience with people at Consulting Success, and a community was kind of built around it. People said, this is great, free information. Do you guys have a course that we can take? And at that time we didn't. So we said, no, but we'll create one. So we did. And we had people go through that and say, this is really helpful. I'm growing. I'm feeling much clearer about how to be successful as a consultant, but is there a way to work more closely with you guys? And we said, no, there isn't, but we'll create a coaching program. So here we are.
You can't work with us. Forget it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It didn't happen right away, but when we started, there was no monetization plan. It was just, we were giving away our ideas, and we figured out if there was a business there, we would create one. We were still running our own companies at that time. But yeah, here we are a decade plus later. We've had, over 2,000 consultants go through our different programs. Tens of thousands read our newsletter each week that gets sent out. And we've just had a lot of fun building a team and working with amazing clients all around the world in many different industries, helping them to be more successful.
Nice. I love it. So is there any type of consultants in particular that you either love working with or that are just particularly attracted to you?
Yeah, so it's not so much about the industry. And I say that because we've worked with consultants literally in every industry imaginable. People don't come to us for help with their industry, meaning if somebody is a pharma consultant, or they're a manufacturing consultant, or they're an AI consultant, like they already have that expertise. What they're coming for us for is help to develop a marketing system to generate, a stronger pipeline, or help on scaling their business, or building a team, or dialing their messaging, or their pricing strategy, or their proposal. So it's really the business side of consulting. And what we look for are people that are action takers, those that have the mindset for growth, that want to embrace challenges and are just really looking for a plan and support to go from where they are to get to that next level, whether they're earlier stage or they're already generating 6 or 7 figures and they want to go beyond that. And oftentimes people reach out to us because they do great work and they've got a lot of referrals, and their networking connections have kind of taken them to where they are today, but they realize that that's not going to continue indefinitely, and that for them to get to that next level, they need to start working on their business in a more kind of strategic and intentional way. And so that's really what we're doing as a team, is helping clients all around the world to do that. So it's really about the mindset, and as long as somebody has expertise and they're confident that they can deliver results, and likely they have a track record of doing that either as a consultant or in a more senior kind of position, then they're usually in a great place where we can help them.
I think it's kind of funny that you say the driven ones. It's like, yeah, and if you really don't want to go anywhere, they're probably not looking for somebody to help them build their business because they're like, nope, I don't want to build my business. That's okay. That's great. Sometimes lifestyle business is important and fabulous. Well, what do you think it is about the driven entrepreneurs that want to grow their businesses? Do they have anything, whether it's mindset or otherwise, in common with each other that drives them with that
Yeah,
mission?
I think that's a great question. I mean, the mindset is certainly a really big part of it. I wrote a book several years back called The Elite Consulting Mind, because what I realized is that oftentimes people have an idea about, strategy, tactics, like they know what to do, but they still don't do it, right? There's still, you look at two people and they both have the same information, same background, same access to, whatever you want, fill in the blank, but one will be really successful and the other one won't. And it's usually comes down to that one is taking a lot more action than the other, but action is, comes from mindset. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to do something and learn whether or not that was the right step or the wrong step. So I think, the mindset piece is so critical that, and I see this consistently across, my friends that are entrepreneurs or colleagues or our most successful clients, or even just introspectively, if I think about, the experience that I've had over the years building business, it's becoming more comfortable with the understanding that you need to take action, and the result of that may not be what you think, but that's okay. It's not a failure. It's a learning experience. And as you have more of these experiences, you just become stronger and better. And then you really become unstoppable. And that's why, it sounds like hype when people say that if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. But I really believe that to be true, that you can accomplish anything that you want. Look at all the kind of futuristic technology innovations that are happening around us. If everybody would have just said like, yeah, there's no way that somebody can do that, it's not possible, we wouldn't have what we have today, but here we are. And so that all starts with the mindset and the belief that something is possible, but then you need to carry it through with consistent action taking. And a big part of that in, every level of entrepreneurship is that you're going to get knocked down. You're going to get punched in the gut, and it's not going to feel good. And you're going to probably have times where you doubt yourself and wonder if you should go back to doing whatever it was that you're doing before. And if you're cut out for this, and imposter syndrome will kind of creep in, and, all that stuff, it's all trash that goes around in our minds. And when you just learn to kind of accept that that's part of the business, it's part of the game, if you want to, call it that, then all of a sudden it just becomes more fun, and you embrace it and you keep moving forward. And I think you can just kind of become unstoppable.
Nice. Not exactly a sales pitch, but a good pep rally.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think like for me, that's what motivates me or gets me excited. It's identifying potential in somebody, whether it's an internal team member, somebody on our team, or it's even just talking to myself or about family, friends, and those that I care about. When somebody has potential, and if they want to actually make more of it, to me, that's an exciting thing. It goes back to probably my grandmother. I remember many years ago when she was still alive that she said to me, like, you should be a teacher. And I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. I want to be an entrepreneur, a capitalist. Like, I want to make money. And only, many years later after that, I realized that she was right. Like that, for me, that's actually where I get the greatest fulfillment. It's not from the money. It's from actually helping people. And that can be like being stopped on the street, or seeing somebody that needs help on the street, or in any situation. And if I can help somebody, that just makes me feel really good. So I try and kind of put myself in positions where I can help as many people as I can.
Nice. I love it. Way to go, Grandma. And
Yeah.
right. And so you can make a lot of money teaching people. That's a good way to go. And I used to have a coach once upon a time that said to my sister, my partner in business at the time, said, well, she just kind of needs to have her head kicked in a little. She'll be fine. Don't know if I like the sounds of that. But basically I had to, just get the chip off my block and, go out and do the things that I had to do. And that it was okay, that it's, you are going to get that gut punch. And when you get it, to just realize that it is part of the game. This is, I mean, it's not like this is an MMA fight with your clients and your potentials, but I think it is kind of an MMA fight against yourself, and
Yeah,
kind of seeing what you're made of.
totally. And I think the other part of it too is, decision making comes into it. That I would say the less experienced or just earlier stage entrepreneur often is kind of paralyzed by decisions and will hesitate more often because they're really worried about making mistakes or about, doing the wrong thing. And as you accumulate experience, at least, this is based on my observation, that you understand that it's better to make a decision, even if it's the wrong one, but at least you're going to get data and feedback from that decision. And so this is why, kind of, if I go back to this story or example that I share with people quite often, it's like, you probably have somebody around you, right? Everybody who's listening to this probably has somebody around them that you look at right now, or you've heard of, and you look at like the education that they lack, or, you went to a better school, or so on the face of it, you should be, or, like they shouldn't be as successful as they are, but they're very successful because, they don't have the education or whatever it is, like the certifications, but they're really successful. How can that be? And it's probably just because they've taken significantly, more action. They've made more decisions. They've had more opportunities to get feedback from the marketplace and from, the environment around them. And so that is a cycle that just, as you get more and more of that, you're just learning much faster than the typical person who's hesitating, trying to optimize for the best decision, but that not actually making a decision. So I think decision-making is also a really important kind of quality or criteria of somebody that wants to be more successful, is just to be able to make more rapid decisions.
Nice. So when it comes to consultants in particular, do you notice that there's a difference in the business mentality or in the business structure, period, that people really have to wrap their heads around? They may be really good in business, but there's something different about this.
Yeah, I mean, there's several models when it comes to consulting, and I think this is one thing that we spend a lot of time with clients on, that there's no right model. There's some consultants that we work with who are generating very high six figures as a solo independent consultant. Like, it's just them doing everything, and that's the way they want to keep it. Others want to, might have started off like that. They left the corporate world because they didn't want to manage people any longer, but then they realize, like, there is demand for what I'm doing. I'm seeing growth, and I realize that if I want to make a bigger impact, I can't do all this myself. And so then they start building a team. There's a lot of different decisions that need to be made around, and depending on what kind of model somebody uses and their approach around that. But I think our big thing is always meeting people where they are and really figuring out, what does success look like for you? Both from a lifestyle perspective, from a financial business perspective, from an impact perspective, and then modeling the business and your offerings and everything else to align with that specifically. So I don't know if that's answering your question or not, but feel free to push back on that.
I will, absolutely. No, it does, and it does very well. So what is one of the most interesting kind of consulting positions that you've come across in your business?
You mean type of like consultant, like the work that they're doing?
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, there's a lot of these, but one that just comes to mind right away, Scott Wagers, based in Belgium, originally a doctor from the US, that does really interesting work with a host of different types of organizations. So essentially, he works at the intersection between pharmaceutical organizations, research, professors and universities, and private investors or investment groups, venture capitalists, and all that. And he's a real master at kind of facilitating these complex meetings and moving parts where you have a lot of different types of organizations or experts. And his company just does a really good job of, kind of building these consortiums or these groups where you can take an idea and run it through their process. And because of the way that they do it, and the experience they've had, doing this so many times, they're able to get health-related products or inventions or just, I guess, services, but it's often products to the market much faster and in a much more effective way. And when you look at the data of the number of products or developments that just fail to see the light of day because they just get stuck in all this internal kind of, the internal machine as it kind of cranks away, they're really about unlocking in a really fine way or effective way, getting kind of people through that. So one thing that I remember Scott said to me many years ago when I was talking to him, I said, how many meetings like have you facilitated like this that are really complex? He's like, oh, I've done like thousands, like, there's been like tens of thousands of meetings. I was like, have other people done that before? He's like, well, some, but not many. And so, that just kind of brought to light a story that I share with people often, which is that it's very common that for you as an expert, you've probably done a lot of stuff that you're not really paying attention to. You're not shining a spotlight on all of your accomplishments and your achievements, because for you, it's not a big deal. Like for Scott, it wasn't a big deal that he was, just an expert in facilitating thousands and thousands of these meetings. But there's very few people like that in the world that have done what he's done. And I think all of us, if we start to really become a little bit more self-aware and make a list of like, what have I accomplished? What have I achieved? What results, successes, all that, there's probably a lot of stuff inside, like this inventory of success and track record that we can leverage more in our businesses. So yeah, that's one example, but I mean, there's so many.
That's awesome, sorry, because I ask because I find that consultants in particular tend to find the neatest little niche of things. There's this problem myself, and I just do it. Like, it's like, what? Yeah, and it always fascinates me that somebody like you can work with somebody and draw that out of them. Because I think so many times people overlook that. They're going for the obvious. It's like, oh, I can make a lot of money in this because everybody else is. And it's not kind of, what is that thing that I bring to the table and I have experience in already? It's easy for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing up something that I think is really important for any consultant, advisor, expert, which is, the conversation around specialization versus kind of like a specialist versus generalist. And you'll hear a lot of people talk about that a generalist is more powerful. This conversations actually had an interview with one of the chair people of Boston Consulting Group, BCG, at their Henderson Institute, and Martin Reeves, and he talked about how being a generalist is very powerful. But what I think a lot of people forget is that you don't want to model what a larger organization has created success in when you are a smaller organization. If you're trying to compete with a larger organization, by being a generalist, you're gonna have a very hard time because they're already doing all that. So as a smaller company, it's critical that you find your area of expertise. You want to find how can you stand out, and that might be kind of horizontal or vertical in terms of you're focusing on your industry expertise and specialization, or it might be more across the specific thing that you do that can be applied across industries. But you need to be known for something. If you're not known for something, it's really hard to stand out. And so I think a good example of this is to look at Stripe when they first, as a payment processor, when they first launched. Don't go to their website today and look at what they say. I mean, what they say today is essentially it's like payment processing for everybody under the sun. But that's not how they started. They started, if you go back in time, like the Wayback Machine, right? I don't know if you heard that website before, Michelle? You know that one? Okay, so if you go to, I think it's like waybackmachine.org, or just search on Google Wayback Machine, you can essentially put in any website and you can see older versions of what that website looked like. So if you go back in time in Stripe, you can see that Stripe, their initial messaging on their website said payment processing or something along these lines, payment processing for developers, right? So they started with a very specific focus of payment processing for developers because developers were underserved with, like, PayPal wasn't very user-friendly for developers and so on and so forth. So they developed a very specific solution. That was their specialization. Same with LEK Consulting, which was started by one of the founders, Richard Koch, who wrote a whole bunch of books on around 80/20. He's hundreds of millions of dollars in assets now, a very successful entrepreneur. And he talks about that they started LEK because, or with a focus on shareholder valuation services. They didn't go in and say, we're going to be another management or strategic management consulting firm like Boston Consulting Group or McKinsey or these other people, because if they try to compete with an established player at the same game, it'd be very hard for them to be known for something. So I think this is the opportunity that again, so many people have, especially consultants, is if you're earlier stage, and I mean, you're up to, several $1 million per year. So if you're a boutique, like I'm not talking about if you have hundreds or thousands of employees, that's a different game. You're at a different level. You can start building out different groups and units and sets of capabilities. But if you're smaller, having a specialization is really important until you get a good grasp on the market, and then you can look for opportunities to expand from there.
Nice. So one of the things that people can do if they're still in that position of, they have a job maybe and they're considering going into consulting, or they have a consulting and they go, I'm definitely generalist, to be able to look at their network, their past experience, things they've done, to be able to go, what have I done more than 12 times that I can blow it out of the water?
Yeah, I've never thought of or heard about the 12 times thing before. So that might be a new one, a good one.
Random number.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, that's certainly part of the process that we take clients through. It's looking at, we have what we call the niche or niche scoring kind of method, depending on if you're how you say that word, but the whole idea is you kind of rank a whole bunch of different factors, because what we see pretty consistently, especially for earlier stage consultants, is that they will have a lot of different experiences and areas of expertise. So one of their greatest challenges is deciding, what should I focus in? It's like, well, I could work in manufacturing, or I can work in food and beverage, but I've also done this, or I've done that. And so you go through kind of a series of these different questions where you score. We get our clients to score. For example, like, what area do you have, out of 1 to 5, where do you have the most experience? Where do you have the biggest network and access? Where have you created the greatest results? So a whole bunch of different factors, and then you get a score. And that score, really, what it helps you to do is to try and see, oh, okay, I have experience in these 2 or 3 different areas, but clearly I have a lot more going for me in this one. And so I could try and take on all these different areas, but as a small company, that's going to be very, very challenging. Even if you have a small team, it's very challenging because number one, if you have time, when you make time to work on your business and to do marketing, where do you direct that marketing if you have multiple different kind of segments or industries or people to go after? But also, how do you develop a message that's going to resonate with anyone if you're trying to speak to everybody or to many different people? So, having this focus is really powerful. And yeah, you've definitely hit on some of those key ones around where do you have a network? Where do you have experience? Where have you created the most success? What do you enjoy doing? Because so much of consulting or any kind of advisory expertise type of business is based on what's between your ears, right? It's your knowledge. And one of the greatest ways to demonstrate value, aside from actually doing the work or getting a referral, is through the content that you put out and the IP that you develop. And so, you want to select something that you're going to enjoy building on and around for many years to come. Otherwise, you're just going to be miserable. And, even if you have a lot of money, there's a lot of people with a lot of money that are miserable. You don't want to be one of those people. So I think it's better to figure out, what will you enjoy spending time researching and learning about and creating content around that you really want to be known for, and then lean into that.
Nice. I love that. So what would you say is your favorite part of your business?
There's 2 parts that I really enjoy. The first is working with our clients and seeing the successes they have and just helping them to really realize their potential and overcome roadblocks. Like when they just kind of get it. And when, for example, we have a lot of people that have, the reason they left even high paying corporate or senior, jobs is because they want to spend more time with their family or their kids or whatever it might be. And then fast forward, a few months, they've done that. They've left their job and they're back up to their previous salary and even beyond that. Or somebody that reaches out and they're just feeling really burned out and they haven't really been taking much of a salary. They have a team and they're, making good money top line, but it's not nowhere near that on the bottom line. And so they're just struggling and feeling kind of burned out, and helping them to, kind of rework or develop a bit of a strategy that gets them better aligned so they can all of a sudden start taking a much better salary, enjoy the fruits of their labors. That's, for me, very, very rewarding, the kind of the teacher side. And the other one that has really been developing more over the last few years is building our team. It's amazing how much you can accomplish when you have a team around you and when everybody is clear on your objectives and the goals and the vision and the values. So that's, today where I spend a lot more of my time is thinking about how can I best support the team that we have, and how can we continue to build our team in a strategic way and in a way that allows us to continue growing, but profitably, and also where we can continue to make a greater impact, because we continue to see more and more kind of, interest, demand, opportunities, I guess, to help people. But in order to do that, we want to do it in a very intentional way where we're always able to provide that kind of 5-star client experience. So for us, it's all about making sure we have the right people as part of the team and the right systems in place to support our clients.
Nice. I love it. Well, you've given us some great client stories, but can you give us an example of a Cinderella story? One of your clients that might have been frustrated before they got to you, and then, things opened up.
Yeah. So I'll say that, I can choose one here, but anyone, if you want to go to consultingsuccess.com, you'll see a link there. It says client results right at the top. There's hundreds of testimonials, case studies that, pick one, choose one that feels maybe more aligned with where you are in your business right now. Nick Campbell's a great example, and she has a case study on our site. So she first reached out when she was just leaving a high six-figure paying job, actually working for one of Ray Dalio's foundations, and kind of doing that governance nonprofit type of work. So very, very experienced, just a brilliant woman, very good at what she does, but she didn't have the experience of actually building out her own consulting business. And so in the first kind of 6 or so months of working with her, we really helped to support her in putting up a plan in place. Everything from how to leverage her network, how to develop her messaging, her pricing strategies, her offers, all that. And within 6 months to a year, she was already back up to what she was making before. And then fast forward into year 2 and 3 and so forth. Now running a very solid $1 million+ business with an amazing team, and she just continues to grow, and the impact that her and her team are creating for their clients, it's really amazing. And I remember that one of the things that actually resonates with me, or that I just really appreciate Nick the most, is the reason that when I asked her why she wanted to leave such a on the outside looked like an amazing job and opportunity, she said, because I want to spend more time with my 2 kids, young kids. And I resonate with that because I have two young kids, 2 daughters. And so, we talked about this at different times. Like I remember she encountered one kind of got stuck a little bit at one point where she's working on her marketing. And like a lot of people, didn't necessarily enjoy, doing marketing and reaching out to people and following up. And I said to her, I said, Nick, why are you doing this? Like, why did you leave this amazing job that you had to start your own business and take on all the quote unquote, risk and just the ups and downs, like what entrepreneurship is all about? But like, why did you do that? And she said, well, I did it for my kids. I really want to spend more time with them and be more present for them. I said, okay, well, next time that you feel you have that kind of feeling inside of the hesitation to do your marketing, to work on the business, I want you to think about your kids. And so when I spoke to her, a week or 2 after that, she said, yeah, like I'm now doing that now, and it's actually helping. I'm doing what I need to be doing. And that was a while back, and she's really, grown her business tremendously since then. But seeing someone like Nick, and there's, many people like this that we've helped who have a real clear why. It's like, what they want to accomplish and why they want to do it. And it's not just them, it's for their kids or their elderly parents or the impact they want to have on a community or whatever it is. And then seeing as they apply their knowledge, their expertise, they take action. I mean, they're the ones that deserve all the credit. But someone like Nick just did, amazing work, continues to focus on delivering great work for clients. And so I just really, love seeing what they've been able to accomplish.
Nice. I know there's a lot of people that have, want to spend more time with their family, whether it's their young kids or their elderly parents, and just that frustration of, I don't get marketing. I don't get, like, there's so many aspects to business that you just want to go out and do the thing that you do and not have to worry about all the extraneous or extemporaneous efforts that go into that. So I know there's a lot of our audience that fall into that and want to they want more from you. So how did they start their journey with you?
Well, consultingsuccess.com is kind of home to everything. We have a free blueprint where we've compiled some of our most popular articles around scaling and growing a consulting business. So you can get that for free by going to the website. We also have the Consulting Success podcast, where I interview successful consultants and share their stories with you. So you can check that out. We have books on Amazon, YouTube videos, about 1,000 articles on our website that we've published over the years. So there's a lot of just free information you're more than welcome to check out, regardless of where you are in your journey. And then for those that are earlier stage, that are looking to get involved in, let's say, a course or some of the paid offerings we have what's called the Momentum Program for earlier stage consultants, and then we have our Clarity Coaching Program for those that want one-on-one coaching support and really to be part of a community to take their consulting businesses to the next level. But as people, I'd say start with the free stuff. Go use as much of that as you'd like, and we'll be here whenever the time is right for you to explore how we can further support you.
Nice. I love it. So peeps, we will of course have all of Michael's notes in the show notes. So go ahead and scroll down, click those links, and of course continue to listen, because I would love to know, at what point in life did you know that you were a special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a question for me. I thought that's the way you're wrapping up your show. I loved it. I was like, that's a great ending for a show. It's interesting. So my parents were not entrepreneurs. For me, up until the end of high school, I'd say grade 10, sports was my life. Everything was sports. I did rugby, I did track and field, baseball, soccer, a bit of basketball. martial arts, and that's just all I did. I wasn't thinking really about business. And then two things happened, and feel free to cut me off, Michelle, here if I go too long. But
No.
one was that in grade 10, I went on a trip with my father and stepmom to Thailand, and I had grown up. So I was born in Toronto. At the age of 2, my parents moved my sister and I to Israel. We spent 4.5 years there. I came back to this time to Vancouver, but back to Canada. I did not speak English and I did not know anybody. And I really felt like an outsider. So I think for me, sports was like where I channeled everything. But I always had this appreciation and love for just people from like all around the world, different cultures, religions, languages, just all that for me was just really, really interesting. And growing up in Vancouver, definitely a lot of cultures, especially from Asia. But we went to Thailand, and I remember I just had this like tremendous level of culture shock that was very positive, but like something switched in my mind. And I came back and I stopped doing the same level of competitive sports and got much more into arts and photography and music. But then my stepfather, so when he came into the picture, he was an entrepreneur. He ran his own electronics stores and was very involved in the electronics business. A tough guy from the Bronx in New York, and he always share amazing stories with me. And so I helped out at his stores, and that kind of started to give me a bit of an entrepreneurial bug. I then started just doing some summer jobs to make money so that I could travel, because for me, travel has always been important. And then at the end of my last year of high school, my cousin Sam and I, we started our first business together. And we didn't really know what we were doing, but we figured it out. And what we realized at that early stage was that in my case, by reading books, I actually knew a lot more than a lot of people did. So for example, I would speak with like the owner of a bagel shop or a partner at a law firm. And I had no, I didn't know much about bagels other than I like to eat them at times. And I didn't know much about law either, but I talked to these people and I realized like, oh yeah, you have a printing store and you've done quite well, but like you don't do any marketing. Well, I've read all these different books on marketing at this point, and we could try this. And we started trying things and helping people. And so long story short, I think, it really came from my stepfather, was probably where that entrepreneurial bug initially kind of kicked in. And then my cousin Sam and I just decided, let's try something, start something. We did. And that gave us some amazing experience. We had some success, and that led to the next business and the next business and the next business. And it's just been a lot of fun, and I can't really imagine doing anything else.
That sounds awesome. So in your entrepreneurial experience, was there ever any blooper reels? Things that you're like, oh no, that's not part of the show anymore, but you can now laugh at it.
Oh, I mean, that happens all the time. So, I mean, there's definitely blooper reels, and then there's also the ones where you look back and recognizing that in that moment it was really, really challenging. Some cases financially, but in my experience personally, it's been more at times either emotionally or mentally just really hard. So I'll give you one example of this. Many years ago, so about 10 plus years ago, I went to Japan and opened up a branch office for one of our businesses there. Ended up running that business for about 6 years, working with some amazing organizations like Omron and Shimadzu, and who else do we work with? Panasonic, Sumitomo, just some billion-dollar organization, like Japanese organizations, helping them to communicate to English language markets. And there was one situation where I remember I got a call very early in the morning from one of our partners in an ad agency that we had worked with. And he never called me that early, right? I was still at my house, and he said, there's a problem with one of our big, large clients. And he told me what the problem was. And I was like, that's not a big deal. Like, we didn't make that. That wasn't even like, that's not even intent. It's not even really a mistake. Like they approved that. It was, it was just a miscommunication. Anyways, long story short, we had to fix it. And so we were in Osaka. We had to jump on a bullet train and get up to Tokyo to meet the client. And we had a 4-hour meeting. And we resolved it. But I remember the feeling of getting that phone call and just kind of like a bit of panic and going like, like this is really, really challenging. Here I am, a foreigner. My Japanese at that point was okay, but not great. I definitely felt out of my element. Like I didn't feel like I was one with my surroundings. And especially at that time, it made me question, like, am I really cut out to do this? And it's funny because when I say that now, it might not sound like such a big deal. Like, I'm sure some people are listening, we're like, what? Like, who cares? Like, you just had a client situation, you work through it. But I can tell you, and one thing maybe I didn't say, I was in my early 20s at that time. So I started this business and, was doing this kind of stuff, being in my 20s, surrounded by people in their 50s, 60s, in some cases, even 70s. And so it was hard for me at times, and I had to kind of navigate that. So I think what's interesting is that I've had a lot of situations like that, and I think probably most of us have, where in that exact moment, it's very like the pain or the feeling is it's very acute, and we feel like the world is ending and we don't know how we can deal with it. But as long as you just power through and you get back up and you keep going, you'll almost certainly look back on that situation, and it might even only be in a matter of days or weeks. But certainly, beyond that, you'll look back and go like, yeah, that really sucked, but just like, it was just part of it. Look where I am today. So I've had a lot of those kinds of things, and, funny stories, especially from my time in Japan, with a whole bunch of different kinds of people. But I enjoy all that stuff now. And I know that the challenges will only continue. And it's now just about being open to kind of navigating through them rather than trying to fight them.
Nice. Love that. Well, I was kind of hoping to hear that, with the more lackadaisical American attitude compared to what I perceive to be the Japanese attitude, you'd like, that's not a problem at all. Americans are not going to notice that. Trust me.
Yeah.
That would have been a really nice ending though.
It would have been. I mean, the good thing is
that's not how it happened.
That's not how it happened. No, we did spend 4 hours talking essentially about nothing in a meeting, but we're able to resolve it. I mean, Japanese meetings are known for being quite long, where in many cases you don't actually get through much substance. But anyways, we worked through it, and the client was happy in the end, and we continued to work with them for quite some time. So it was a positive experience in the end. And now I think what I always look for, and I'm sure others do this as well, it's anytime you have that kind of experience where something doesn't go the way that you thought that it would, there's a lesson inside of that. And so it's important to just look at it and go, okay, like there was a mistake or something didn't work out. All right, number one, what do we do going forward? But number two, like, how do we, fix this and keep moving forward? But then number two, what can we learn from this experience? How can we ensure this doesn't happen again? Or how can we now use that objection that we heard from a buyer and add it to our collection, so that when we can address it before it comes up in our next conversation? Like, there's all these clues for success all around us. And sometimes I think entrepreneurs, and I know myself as well, we're just so focused on kind of moving forward in the day-to-day that we're not paying as much attention to these things as we can. But I think when you can just kind of pause for a moment and go, okay, what's happening? What was the opportunity? How do we improve? And we just embrace this. There's so much opportunity for improvement.
Nice. Love it. You have been absolutely awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
No, I just appreciate you, Michelle, for having me on, and for doing what you do. I know that I've heard just great things about the work that you do for your clients. And yeah, I really appreciate you putting these messages and the podcast out into the world, and making the impact that you do with everyone that gets to be a part of it.
Nice. Love it. Thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate it, and I know how valuable it is.
Thanks.
Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow. Thank you for listening to 7 to 8. If you're interested in upping your speaking game, be sure to connect with our guests with the links in the show notes, and connect with me to see how we can help you get your tech done for you and help your speaking dreams come true.